Sorry for the delay tonight. We've had an interesting last 20 minutes getting ready for this live stream. Let me just check the audio. My HyperDeck went down, and this is the HyperDeck Live. So it just sounds good. So we had a power surge here in the house. I don't know if it's because we're using too much power, but what I noticed, oops, sorry about that. What I noticed is it threw everything off. It threw the HyperDeck off. I had to reboot my converters. Discovered all of this after I rolled the intro. So anyway, so live, you never know what's going to happen. Thank you for joining me tonight. Just looking on here, I see Freddie. You are Steady Eddie. So Freddie, you're the only one that knows these glitches. But again, it's going to be live. I'm going to go ahead and hit record here. So welcome to the live stream. We've had some glitches tonight, and glitch number one, the HyperDeck was non-existent when I went to roll my intro. And a little while ago, we had a power surge. I checked everything out. I should have looked over on my multi-view because my HyperDeck was queued. I looked over at my multi-view as I was rolling the intro, and the screen was blank on the program out. Blank on this screen, which is what I can watch the program right here, just like you guys can. And I had to diagnose and figure out what it was. And that's why I keep those converters right up here on my desk where they're within reach. Because you never know if there's a power glitch, you may have to reboot those converters. And that's what I did. So thank you for joining me tonight. We'll talk a little bit about the HyperDeck tonight. We're also going to do an unboxing. I have a sneak peek of lesson 5 of our HyperDeck Mini series. And I've already released episode 4, so we can't do a sneak peek tonight. It's already available here on my channel. There's 4 videos up right now, and there's 2 more coming. One tomorrow afternoon, which is all ready and all done. Tonight, you're going to see the progress in the middle of episode 6. I actually saved most of the editing for lesson 6 to share a little bit of my editing process tonight. So not only are you going to get a little unboxing of an item here that I got from my Rodecaster Pro, and the Rodecaster Pro is an audio device that's the center of my audio in my studio. And there's lots of things here in the studio, and they all need to work. So, and this tool that I got is actually a backup system. So we'll talk a little bit more about that, but welcome to Life Journey Production Studios. My name is Keith, and this is Tuesday Live. If you looked at the beginning logo, I changed it a little bit, and so it does say Tuesday Live. So thank you so much for joining me. Those of you that follow one of my online mentors, Parametric Eq, will know that he used to be on Tuesdays Live, and now he's on Sunday morning. So a shout out to him. He vacated this slot in Tuesday, and because I wanted to do a live stream here in the studio, I picked Tuesday afternoons. So that's why I'm live. So let's get right to it. Let me give you kind of an overview of where we're going. I had a question last week asking me if I look over this way and smile, am I looking at a teleprompter? And no, this is my laptop over here, which I'll be able to share the screen here shortly. Right now I'm looking at the stream. I also have my iPad tonight. I've got Mix Effect open, so I can roll some macros right from Mix Effects, and I'll do a live stream pretty soon on the Mix Effect app. I also have the Stream Deck here, which I power my lights with. I also could do macros, and we'll talk about that in the stream. There's lots of questions about, how to automate your studio, and obviously you have the macro level, and that's what you're going to see in my video that releases on the HyperDeck tomorrow, lesson 5, which you're going to see a sneak peek, because we're going to be talking about programming macros to automate your HyperDeck. But again, the HyperDeck has to be working, and that was our challenge tonight. The HyperDeck was working, but it wasn't getting the signal to the ATEM Mini Extreme ISO, which is what I'm streaming from tonight. I'm also recording on it. I don't normally record. I just let YouTube be my recording. But tonight I may do some work on this live. I don't know. I'll probably just leave it up. It is what it is. So you guys can experience the challenges that you face with live. It's no different than any live production. I used to do every week live events, and it just, you have to be as ready as you possibly can. And I do spend quite a bit of time getting ready for my lives. And the reason I do that is because of all of my years of experience with all the things that can go wrong. I want to it's just like if I was a pilot, and maybe there's some pilots listening to this either live or later, maybe you have seen a pilot. My father-in-law is a pilot, and I've been in that plane with him before, and I've watched him go through his checklist. My wife's cousin's husband is a pilot. That's what he does for a living. I have other friends that I know that are pilots, and when you're in there, they have all these things they're checking. They want to make sure before they ever leave ground that everything is working. So that's what we did tonight. And I missed one thing on my multi-view, and so I had to scramble a little bit. So we did start a little bit late. I apologize for that. I try to be right on time. So again, tonight I want to talk about, number one, we're going to talk about a item I bought for the Rodecaster Pro. That's part one. That's just going to take a few minutes. We're going to actually unbox it. I got it right here. I'll talk about this in here in just a second. And then we're going to do a sneak peek of lesson 5 tonight, let you guys see that. And then we're going to do a behind the scenes look at my editing process in Adobe Premiere. You're going to hear me in my HyperDeck series. And if you don't know what that is, I did a whole series on the HyperDeck by Blackmagic Design. There's a number of different HyperDecks. The one I have here in my studio is the Mini, and I only have one, and we'll talk about that later in tonight's live. But that whole series is 6 videos. 4 of them have been released. They're going out every 48 hours approximately, even though I did have yesterday's on Memorial Day pop on in the middle of the night because I hit AM instead of PM in the schedule. So again, I hope that when you're watching that series and you hear about different things I recommend as far as video editing, being able to make motion graphics, that you'll pay attention a little bit to tonight as I'm inside Adobe Premiere, and you're going to see in my last video, lesson 6, which you're going to see behind the scenes tonight, that's about editing motion graphic in After Effects. We're also going to pop into Adobe Audition tonight live as well, and you're going to actually see lesson 6 before it's done. It is not finished. It's been shot, right? I shoot it right here, but then I add all of the graphics. I add arrows. I'm trying to think from your perspective. If you've never had a HyperDeck before, maybe you're not even editing yet video, or you're not doing any graphics. I'm trying to do my absolute best job to make this video series answer those questions. And then next Tuesday, we're actually going to live produce as a part of our show a 10-minute video that's going to be a bonus video on that series, and that we'll talk about a little bit later tonight. So if I forget, please put that in line. Stop and think. Thank you for showing up. You're from Bolton, South Carolina. Cool. Glitches are universal. Thank you. Man, you come to my streams anytime. Anybody that has that mercy gift, knowing what it's like to do live stream. So again, like I said, I have history doing live stream, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a later live. We're going to talk about live streaming and the steps that I go through to get ready. But tonight I want to focus in on an unboxing. So what do you do if you lose power? I've had a couple power surges. And so it's interesting because I've been making power decisions and thinking about backup power because I had this gut feeling that, I have really consistent power. I haven't had any glitches. I don't know that we've had a power outing except for the ones they told us about because they're building houses all around us. But I do understand as they add more houses, there could be an issue with power. So I'm working on backup systems here in the studio. And this is one of the tools. This is actually the for the Rodecaster Pro, the DC-USB 1. And I haven't unboxed it. This has actually been here for about 4 or 5 days. This is going to be a part of my backup plan for my Rodecaster Pro, which does all the audio in here. I probably should have a wireless microphone out as a backup pinned on, and then have that in channel 2 of my ATEM Mini Extreme ISO, which is my switcher here in the studio. That's by Blackmagic Design as well. So that if something happened with my Rodecaster Pro, then I could just switch on channel 2 as a backup. And that's something that I'm thinking about. So anyway, so this is actually designed to be able to USB power the Rodecaster Pro. So I could have a backup battery ready every live stream with my Rodecaster Pro plugged in. And if something happened with the power, this would be on and ready to go. So at least I could get back up and streaming. So let's open this up here. Got my trusty knife out because these labels that started, I remember when these little plastic labels started on DVD players, DVDs at Walmart when I used to go shopping there. And it was really hard to get them off. So that's the outside box. It's really cool. So let me see if I can get a down shot of this box. Let me turn the sky cam on here that goes off after 30 minutes. And let me set this box right here so you guys can see it. So there's the box and the front. And that's just kind of a cover. And that slides over this box that I have right here. Switch back. And so inside this box, it has kind of another opening, is this power cord. I'm going to pull it out here. And again, I haven't had it out. I've done a lot of research on this. It's been on my to purchase list for a long time. I've had my Rodecaster Pro, I think, almost 2 years now. It's one of the first pieces of equipment that I purchased to live stream and podcast with. So basically on one end, you have a locking cable. It plugs in just like my power cord for the Rodecaster Pro. And then obviously, you know, these are for surge protection. And then this side is USB. And so I could plug this into my laptop or into my hub, excuse me, or I actually could plug this into a backup powerful USB battery. And that's something I will be getting, and I'll be sharing that with you guys here. So they make backup power supplies that have USB outlets on them as well. And so I haven't quite decided yet what I'm getting. But again, this is for my Rodecaster Pro. And if you don't know anything about the Rodecaster Pro, check out last week's live. And I have other videos here on the Rodecaster Pro. So that is going to give me backup for the Rodecaster Pro. And that's just one piece. I also have my iPad, which I'm using right now to do mix effects. It's got a battery. My laptop, I already have a battery, and that's where I'm running the YouTube and starting and stopping that. So when my power glitch happened, most everything came right back on. It was like a fraction of a second. So my laptop is fine, right? Because it's got a battery. My phone, my iPad's fine. My Rodecaster Pro, when I looked down, it was back on. And it's not like a lot of digital things I have in the studio, like my ATEM Mini Extreme has a startup state, which you can save, and it'll start up just like it powered off. And so you never know when it's going to power off. So you want to save startup state, and that'll save all of my lower thirds, like this one right here. It'll save the still images that I have in there. It'll save all my macros. And so that was all in there. But what I did not realize is that I have my USB, my converters from HDMI to SDI, or actually SDI to HDMI converters. And then I have one that's HDMI to SDI. And that's designed to take out of the HyperDeck into my ATEM. And those didn't reset. So they weren't working. So my HyperDeck was working fine, but I wasn't getting an HDMI signal in channel 7 or 8. And in the series, you'll learn that 7 is the main input, and that's where all the video comes in, or the main channel if you're doing a graphic. And then channel 8 is used as a key, or we also call it an alpha channel, and that keys out the background. And so I don't even have channel 8 up on my multi-view. I could add it, but I have just channel 7 up because channel 7 is what I need to see. I don't really need to see the alpha channel. I can tell on the graphic if it's working or not. So again, that kind of came timely. So I added it to tonight's live stream because I guess I had a premonition that this is going to be an important thing to talk about. And if I hadn't had that power outage, this would have been a short conversation, but it's something you can think about for any device that you have that you're using the stream. My cameras are also, they have what they call dummy batteries. They're not smart, but that's just what they call them. And so instead of having a rechargeable battery in, I have batteries that are in my Canon cameras. That's what I use in my studio. It's not opposed to Sony or Lumix or any of the other GH5 guys out there. You know, those are great cameras. I shared many times I've had a Panasonic, but that's kind of a thing to think about when you're live streaming. So from my ATEM needs power, my Rodecaster Pro needs power, my converters need power. I have my ATEM Mini Pro as a backup, and I don't even have it hooked up tonight the way I would need to have it hooked up to stream. So it is kind of an interesting thing, this live. And if the power went down right now, I probably would keep streaming, but I might lose my cameras because of the fact that my laptop would stay live, but the stream might drop or might not drop. So again, so that's kind of part one. I wanted to talk just a little bit about this device. I have it now in the studio. I'm going to figure out what I'm going to plug this into so I have battery power available. And I do have some portable NTP Sony type batteries that I could use. I don't know how long they would last running the Rodecaster Pro. I'm going to have to do some testing. So it's going to be interesting how this will all work, but that's probably something that's going to be on my desk ready to go if I ever have a power outage. And probably within 2 minutes, I could be up and running again. We'll see, you know, how things go if that ever happens in a live stream. So again, thank you so much for your patience tonight. Thank you so much for joining me. I just wanted to look down here to see who's with me. So good to have you again, Freddie. Good to have you. Stop and think. And let's just hope that more people join us tonight. So if you haven't checked out the HyperDeck series, it's in the notes tonight. And I'm adding links to the videos as they come out. So you could go to HyperDeck Series Lesson 1, and you're going to find in the notes the links to all the other videos that are live. That's an update I do every time a new video goes live. And again, there's going to be 7 total, 6 in the lessons. 7 is going to be a bonus we're going to do right here live next Tuesday. So if you join me and you're here for the whole live stream, we're going to take a section out of the live stream and we're actually going to record, just like I'm recording right now, but we're actually going to produce together a video. And if you're on, I'm going to mention your name in that video. It's going to stay on there forever. That'll be really cool. And who knows, I may have a surprise or so for that little video. So if you're thinking about live streaming and that's why you're joining me, I hope some of these things that we're talking about will help you start to process the things that you need to think about. And obviously there is nothing like doing it. And that's the easiest way to learn. I always tell everybody, practice live, because it is something that you have to be able to process and think through. So right now I have 1, 2, if you count the BenQ monitor, which I covered 2 weeks ago in the live, it has 3 different windows open right now. So that BenQ can have picture-in-picture, it can have side-by-side, it can have 4 different inputs. I have 3 of those going right now. One is my HyperDeck, so I can see my HyperDeck bigger. The other one is my multi-view, which is just right here off camera. And then below that right now, I have Word open, and I do have my outline right there. That's the first time I've had an outline. But with all the distractions tonight, I didn't get a chance to do my normal review, which is what I've been doing for years as I've been live or in live events, is I just kind of review the outline before I go live, and usually my brain will lock onto that. But tonight I was solving why the HyperDeck was not working. So let's take a look now at lesson 5. This is going to be a sneak peek. And again, HyperDeck Series Mini, HyperDeck Mini, there's other versions of it. There's the Pro, there's the 4K. So HyperDecks have expanded over the time, but this deck has been around quite a long time. Most of the videos that I found when I was deciding on a HyperDeck or not, a lot of those videos were a year, 2 years, even 3 years old. And very few cover the new updates, the fact that you can now record in the HyperDeck at codecs like H.264, and you have the same three choices as you do on the ATEM Mini products, the low, medium, and high. And obviously you have to record in the HyperDeck to be able to play back H.264. For whatever reason, Blackmagic Design is not letting it record or play if I did a render in Adobe Premiere or After Effects through the media player or the media outsourcing and shows H.264. I haven't tested it, but everything I've read and everything I've heard about, it does not play unless you record H.264 in it. And I've actually recorded H.264 in it and it played perfectly fine. So this series is really designed to help people that have never had a HyperDeck Mini. And it even will apply, lots of it will apply to the other HyperDecks. I take you from the desk of showing you it out of the box all the way through hooking it up to how you get all the software integrated with the control software from Blackmagic Design. And then obviously you're going to learn about more stuff this next week, as all the videos will be out here in less than 3 days, except for that bonus 7 video, which we're going to do next Tuesday, and it won't hit the list probably until later next week. So again, thank you for joining me. We're going to give you guys, for tuning in tonight or who are watching this video, a sneak peek now of lesson 5. And this is quite a big chunk, so enjoy this. I'm sorry to leave you hanging, but I got to leave something for tomorrow when the video releases. So let's roll that sneak peek right now. And just so you know, I am using Mix Effects, and I'm going to push a button on my macros right on my iPad, and let's see if this works. Well, welcome back to the HyperDeck series. I am Keith. This is Life Journey Production Studios. If you're enjoying this series, please like and subscribe. If you're not enjoying this series, you probably have the HyperDeck all figured out, or you don't even know if you ever would get one. But if you do think about getting a HyperDeck, or you are trying to get yours integrated correctly, this is the video series for you. We're going to talk about macros. This is a second part of our animated graphics, assigning them to keys and integrating them in your HyperDeck with your ATEM control software. I want to talk about how you can roll a graphic, a lower thirds. Right now, I have a static lower third below me, and that's playing in my media pool. We'll take a look at that here in a second. But what if I wanted that animated graphic that I have? And what if I wanted it to be a macro button? So let's say, for instance, I'm doing a demo and I have my super source up and I want to get ready to end my show. And I just want to roll in my graphic, let everybody see my Life Journeys Productions logo and all of that before I say goodbye, then I may want to program a macro for that. So let's talk about how to do that right now. So we cut to super source. I have my lower thirds graphic there right now, but let's say I don't want that graphic on there. So in a minute, we're going to turn it off, and we're going to use one of our downstream keys like we talked about in the last video to play my other graphic from my HyperDeck, but I want it to be a macro. So let's start by creating a macro. So let's go up here to File. Next to File in the top left is Macros. We're going to click on that button, and then we're going to click on Macros, and it opens up this menu. So we're going to leave it right here for right now. And you can see I have a number of macros. On the front of my ATEM Mini Extreme, I have 6 macro buttons. Mine's Extreme ISO. If you have the Extreme, you're going to have 6 programmable buttons. This is button 1, button 2, button 3, button 4, button 5, button 6. And then I have all this room for more macros, and I have multiple pages. So I could have a page for different shows, and they're scrolled through down here. But I want to create a macro here. It's not going to be one of my buttons on the front of my ATEM because they're already filled up with macros I'm using right now. So I'm going to click on that, click on the plus arrow under the Create menu. This is the Run menu where I run macros. This is the Create menu where I create macros. So again, click on that, click plus. I'm going to name this HyperDeck. Run. So we're going to run LT, lower thirds. We're going to hit record. So it's now recording my every move. First step I want to do is I want to decide if I want this to be playing already or looping. It's playing. I want to turn it off. So I just told my macro that this should be off right now when we start. So we'll come back to that in a minute. I do want it to play at the bottom of my super source. If I didn't want it to play on the bottom of my super source, I would tell it to go to one of my other inputs. But when I cut to that macro, I do want it my super source. So I'm going to turn that off, back on again. And then I want to turn super source off and back on again, because I do want to cut back to super source. I don't want my DVD on. I just want to do a mix. So I'm turning that off. I'm telling the macro to have a mix on. And that's my transitions, just to make sure that I have a nice smooth transition when I hit that macro. I'm not going to want this image that I have on the screen on now, so I'm turning that off. So what I want to do is I want to have downstream key play. So we're going to go to the downstream key to show you that. Leave that on, go to palettes menu up here. If you don't have downstream keys open, they're right here, and they're both listed in one long column. I don't know why they didn't do a downstream key one, downstream key two, like they did that, but that's the way the software is set up. I can set a time here. If I'm not going to change the time, then I would just click in this button to tell it that's what I want. But I'm going to go to 1 second here because I changed it in my last attempt at this video. And I'm going to click enter. I want my HyperDeck fill to be here, so I'm going to change away from it and back to it. I want my HyperDeck key here to change away from it and back to it, and make sure they're like that. I don't want a mask, so I'm going to turn that on and off again. And I do want pre-multiplied key on, so I'm going to turn that off and on again. So now I've told my macro that my downstream key needs to have this settings. I have all my other. Well, that's it. Sorry to leave you hanging. It was hard to find a cutting point tonight because really when I wrap up that macro, we do some illustrating how the macro works, and then that video ends. And so there's probably about 4 or 5 more minutes left in that video. You guys can see that tomorrow right here on the live stream. And again, because I'm doing the HyperDeck tonight series, right? And I'm talking about it, and this is kind of a dedicated video because it's out there. 4 of them are live. 2 more are going to go live here in the next 3 days, literally tomorrow afternoon, late afternoon. Within 24 hours, we are going to have another lesson 5 to watch, which you'll see the rest of that. And then lesson 6, where I go into After Effects and I design a motion graphic. I talk about exporting it and all of that with an alpha channel. And then we're going to do next Tuesday live, we're going to do another bonus version of that, because there's a couple things after I shot those 6 episodes or 6 lessons that I thought, you know, I've covered before, but I'd like to do one live. I would like to do a lesson in it that would actually hang out live forever. So again, that live one is going to be both an edited version put in the series, and then the live will be added as well. If someone wants to watch that whole one, they're going to hear us do the setup, and then they're going to hear us after the recording is done. So again, I hope you'll join me next Tuesday for that. That's I haven't seen anybody else do that. So do an upload video, but record it live, and then edit it and put it up and invite people to be live with me in that event. So the lesson 5 covers macros. And if you've been following me for a while, I've said this, I like pushing the buttons, because pushing every button on the ATEM, pushing every button on the Rodecaster Pro, just using my Stream Deck for my lights, right? Because I don't want to have to get up and down to turn buttons on and off my lights. But I wanted to learn how to run from the front of the ATEM. So I learned how to do that from my Pro. There was buttons missing from the Pro. There was no macro buttons on the Pro. And I'll talk in that video about the macro buttons that are available on the front of the ATEM Mini Extreme and the ATEM Mini Extreme ISO. And as I said in that video clip, and I just want to say it again before we jump into Adobe Premiere and look at the lesson 6, which is not edited completely. You're going to be a part of some live editing right here, and kind of we'll talk you through some of my process tonight. But here's the deal. Macros, right? You have those 6 buttons on the front of the ATEM, but macros are going to use all of the things that you have available. So if you have a ATEM Mini, right, you have one upstream key and one downstream key. So as I was talking tonight about what I have in my ISO now, I have 2 downstream keys and I have 4 upstream keys. It's important to know the difference because you're going to have to choose one of those keys to bring in motion graphics. And when I had my ATEM Mini Pro, I was using my downstream key to do motion graphics. And I didn't do a lot of motion graphics. And if you've been on this live show, I don't do a lot of motion graphics live, only because I've been using the HyperDeck mainly to do intros and then to train how to do that. I do have some ideas that I'd like to do live, and we'll be looking at those in the future when we can actually have a conversation. And as I implement those, I want to set them up and then I want to implement them, because that's kind of the advanced part of live streaming. Now, when I talk about SuperSource, and then we'll go into lesson 6 here. When I talk about SuperSource, you know, SuperSource is available now also on the Extreme and the Extreme ISO by Blackmagic Design. And that gives you all those different boxes, which we're going to cut to here in just a minute so that I can share my screen and be able to take you into Adobe Premiere. But though that's not available, SuperSource isn't available in the ATEM Mini, the ATEM Mini Pro, and the ATEM Mini Pro ISO. But you can use picture-in-picture, and you can resize the box in picture-in-picture. So a lot of people that were doing interviews on the ATEM Mini Pro, the Mini Pro ISO, and even the ATEM Mini, they were just scooting to the side, one side or the other, and then they would put up the DVD and crop it, and then they would have a side by side, but you would have to come over like this. What's nice about SuperSource is that you can set those super sources so it just crops in on the right and left. And you can do that with all 4 boxes. So you can crop them from the sides, from the top. So you can do widescreen with 2 crop sides on the right of you or on the left of you. And what's really nice about Mix Effects, and a shout out to Adam Tao, who was on the live stream a few weeks ago, and you can watch that video. It's performing really well. Obviously, it was my honor to have Adam on. It's so easy. And one of my favorite features with Mix Effects, which is an app that's designed to remote control the ATEMs, and it's designed from the ground floor up. It doesn't operate through the control software by Blackmagic Design. Adam redesigned it in iOS. And so you can run it from an iPad, you can run it from an iPhone. I have Mix Effects right now under the macro screen on my iPad, and this is a version 2, so it's running perfectly on version 2. So if you have a Pro or you have a newer iPad, for me, it's going to run great. I haven't had any problems. A couple little glitches, but most of that was just getting it set up and making sure that my ATEM is on when I go to try to access it. So, but one of my favorite features is that I can change the input to those boxes. So it's great to be able to just reach down here in SuperSource and be able to switch what goes into those boxes. So let's switch to SuperSource right now. And so you have my desktop. So let's switch back here real quick. Let me just change the screen, find my mouse. Change that again. So here's SuperSource, and you can see I'm centered. So this is cropped, right? So obviously my widescreen shot goes wider than this. We'll cut back to that just so you can see it. So you're following with me. So this is a widescreen shot, and I'm not going to move or reposition myself when I switch over to SuperSource. And with Adam's app, rather than going into the control software, bringing up the SuperSource and that folder, I can have SuperSource open on my screen right here, and I could reassign the boxes right below the boxes on the screen. And I'm going to hold this up real quick so you can see it. Right below the boxes is this matrix down here, and all I got to do is tell what box I want to change and then what camera I want to switch to. And obviously it goes by the cameras 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So obviously I know my HyperDeck is in 7. I know my downward camera is in 3. My desktop is in 4. My camera right here is in 1. And I'm used to that. I have it all memorized. So it makes it pretty easy for me to use this. But that's what I love about it. So I could switch right now, right here next to my laptop, which sits off camera. And you're going to watch me look at it here. But as I edit, right, if I wanted to do some live training, I could do an overhead shot. I could change my laptop location and put it right here where my Rodecaster Pro is, or I could use SuperSource and just change angles of the camera depending on which way I'm looking. And so that's quite interesting. Now I could shift SuperSource to where I'm on the other side and my desktop is on this side of the camera shot for program, but I'm just going to leave it like this tonight and take you through kind of lesson number 6. So what I did is I recorded everything live right here in the studio using the same microphone, hitting record on my ATEM Mini Extreme ISO. And I did a number of takes. If I didn't like a take, I would do another take. I didn't have any notes. I kind of knew each lesson, what I wanted to do. I did the first 2 lessons over on the desk. I tried to do lesson 3 on the desk, and I just didn't like the way it felt. And I wanted to bring it back to my main desk, which is in the corner here in the studio, because I wanted to actually start talking about the Extreme and start talking about using the keys in the Extreme for many people out there that are going to make a decision between the ATEM Mini, Mini Pro ISO, and the 2 Extreme versions. So now into this. This is Adobe Premiere, and I wanted to share tonight that you can get a package from Adobe Premiere, and you can actually, for I think it's under $60 United States cash, you can have every program that they offer. I share in my video series the ones I use on a regular basis. After Effects is going to be in the video that you're going to see, lesson 6. And so I actually built a small little moving logo for that whole lesson. Tonight we're looking right now, you're seeing Adobe Premiere. And so I wanted to kind of walk you through this. On the left-hand side here, you have a number of folders and bins, but you also have kind of your main editing window. And this is my main editing window for lesson 6. And I'll increase this just for a minute. And so as you're getting ready to edit, you want to bring all the resources into one folder. Now I'm doing lessons 4, 5, and 6 in the same kind of folder for Premiere Pro. And then I have different sequences, and that's what I'm working on right now. I'm working on a sequence for lesson 6. I've just finished the final rendering for lesson 5, and that'll be put up tonight and then scheduled to go out tomorrow. And I even made some changes on a graphic today because of the time I have still on lesson 5. And so I try to watch them back a number of times critically and see if there's anything I want to change before they go live. So the first thing I'm going to do is organize everything in this folder on the left. And I have most of the resources that I dropped in here literally about an hour and a half before we went live. And some of these resources are in my other versions. So here's lesson 5, and this is completely edited. And this is what it looks like. And you might be wondering what this big gap is. I had 4 different versions of 5 that I wanted to look at. And I would just turn these little eyeballs off right here, and it will make that layer go away. So you could turn the top layer off, the second layer off, the third layer off. So I literally had 4 different videos up here, and I just quickly kind of preview them. And I like the flow of this one. So I kept it. And it was actually the second take, and I really liked it. So I have never brought up the audio to the top channel. I never brought down the videos down to these lower tracks, which I could have. So if you compare that to lesson 6, I went through the takes ahead of time, picked this take, and now I'm just cleaning it up. And if there's any long pauses or if something doesn't completely make sense, then I'll make cuts here. And as you scroll over here, I have a cut. Let me make this just a little bit bigger for you. And I wanted to take a second. I saw on here Forced Online. Hey, how's it going? Bill Serino, how's it going? Thanks for joining me tonight. So that makes the audio bigger, and I'm just dragging these channels up and down, and there's quick keys for that. I'm more a mouser, believe it or not. It slows me down, but I do know some of those. And so here's my audio, and I have a cut right here. And I told you guys you get kind of a sneak peek of this. So let me just play a little segment of this. We should get some decent audio. Let's just play a little bit of this intro. Well, welcome back to Life Journey Production Studios. My name is Keith. Thank you so much for joining me in this final video on this HyperDeck series. Thank you. So we'll pause that. And now I'm going to increase the size of it. And so what I've already done, as you can see here, is I've dropped in the still. I have my audio right here. This is my intro audio. And that is a track that I purchased to be able to use with my channel. And so I have a short version, a medium, long version, and a full version. I'll put in the notes where I got those. And so I use that in every one of my videos. And you can see that that's right here. And then I also dropped the short in at the end, even though it's not in position. And I have the still here as well. And so I typically just get those in position and drag them in. And I'm obviously going to work on the end after I get the beginning. I like to do it that way and just get the beginning of the video and the outro of my video. Take these back off. And so again, I'm going to make this a little bit bigger and let you guys kind of see how these kind of go together. If I turn off this channel right here, you're going to lose the still image, which is right here. The channel right above that will scroll forward, and I'll turn that off. And you see that still image about the whole series goes away. Right above that, you have lesson 6 comes and goes. And the top track here, I have to be actually over it for you to see it. That is the logo that says Keith Bennett that flies in. And that's a pack, a shout out to Peter McKinnon. That's a pack of animated graphics that I purchased from him off of his site. And I use them all the time. I love this fly-in graphic, and I use it quite often. So that's the first kind of layer here. And so when you're editing video, obviously, if you've done it before, you know, it's just like when I used to be in a graphic design school, it's like paste up. You start with a whiteboard, or if you're doing like a pen and ink drawing, you might reverse it and have wax board that you cover with black ink, and then you scrape off the black ink and it reveals the white board under it. But again, those are layers, and video goes together the same way. And editing audio in a studio is very similar, but you would move audio's layered differently. It's more in this way. If we were talking about engineering audio, right? What's in the right channel, what's in the left channel, and what's coming right down in the middle. But you can also use reverb in audio to layer things. So from reverb, I can make somebody sound like they're on the back of the stage. And with less reverb, I can move them to the front of the stage. Well, video and audio are done in these tracks. And so the tracks below are audio, and the tracks above are video. And so everything above this center line right here is what I'm editing. And that's Adobe Premiere. And even if you look at DaVinci Resolve and a lot of the other softwares that are out there, Mac software specifically, it's very similar. They're layers, and you add in your graphics, and you add in the video clips, and then you can do dissolves, you can do transitions, you can even do audio transitions. So if you do a cut, you can make sure that it does a crossfade so you don't get a pop or a click. So all of those things are important. So all of those are things that I go through when I'm editing a video. So I start, obviously, by getting all of the resources, at least everything I can think of right here. I have my arrows that I've made from my other series. I have circles that I have already been using in lesson 6 today. I have my audio tracks here. I have this little clip right here. Let me bring this up and I'll show it to you in the other window. This I actually clipped from Adobe's website. And right here you can subscribe, and it tells you the price right down here. I think it's $52 $99 on sale right now to subscribe to everything with Adobe. And I think I got that same deal for 90 days, and then the price went up a little higher than that, and I pay for that monthly. So as I get all these resources and I kind of think through the lesson, I then add all those into this folder. I've created a bin for all those to be in. So if I go up, I have resources right here from other of my lessons. And if I go into lesson 6 bin right here on the bottom, I have everything that's specific to lesson 6. And some of those resources I'm using in lesson 5 and lesson 4, like arrows and things like that. And so if I design them for lesson 1, I don't have to redesign those for every single lesson. And that's why I will do all of these in one folder, and then I will then make sequences. So processing how you're going to put video together and the steps that you take are really important to how you save time and make things streamlined and have all the pieces in place. I may decide I want to add something. If I do, then I'm just going to snap a picture like I did in my intro reel tonight. I wanted to have a picture from my phone of this unboxing device, and I wanted to have it in my intro. And if you go back and look at my intro tonight, you're going to see it coming in and see it coming out. So let's make this a little bigger. And I promise you guys, you get to see a little bit highlight of lesson 6 tonight. So let's just play this from the intro. Well, welcome back to Life Journey Production Studios. My name is Keith. Thank you so much for joining me in this final video on this HyperDeck series. Thank you for subscribing and liking these videos if they're helping you out. Sorry, I'm going to turn the audio up for you. This is actually the audio tab that's found right up here in the menu system. Please share them with other people that you know that are struggling with their HyperDecks, and maybe you're not, and you're just wanting to make sure you're fully using your HyperDeck. This is the place to be. Or maybe you just wanted to learn how to do motion graphics. We're going to be diving into After Effects here. That's where I make my motions and graphics. But let me just remind you that if you did something like a font in Adobe Premiere, you could just create a green background, and then you could key that out using your Luma key, and that would work as well to play an animated graphic inside your HyperDeck and make it a part of your presentation. And that would be for another video here in the HyperDeck series, but this is going to be a focus on how to create a alpha channel graphic that's animated in After Effects. So let me switch to this view here. So one of the things I wanted to say tonight in looking at this is having SuperSource has actually saved me time in editing. A lot of times I would create these kind of looks in a video. So I would take this shot, and then I would want to have my desktop on the screen as well. So I would create these type tools in videos, and now it's in SuperSource. So I can just cut to a SuperSource when I'm recording one of these videos, and I don't have to do any of this editing. The other thing I wanted to talk about with editing is obviously trying not to do a bunch of takes. Try to get it as much in the can with one take as you can, and give yourself some kind of cue of when you wanted to redo something. So sometimes when I'm editing, I'll actually say, I didn't like that, let me do that again. And that, as I'm scrolling through or watching a video through, I'll just make that cut as I'm previewing it. If that's the one I like, then I just want to cut out that and get right to the take I like if I go back to it. So the process that you go through, how you record it, is really important. And so having the studio set up and sitting right here to do a video, or having the different choices of different cameras, really makes recording something for upload on YouTube a little easier for me, because I can kind of process it how I want it to go and make those changes as I go. Now, live may be a little less intuitive because you never know exactly what's going to happen with a live event. When you're recording, you can stop and redo something, or if you didn't like the camera position, you could change it. And so It's pretty exciting what you get now in an ATEM. So you can have your cameras in the studio. You can do these videos and upload them to YouTube without even having an ATEM Mini or an Extreme. Those are all for switching live or live broadcasting. And now you can record to them. You could do all of this inside Adobe. And for years, I've been doing things like this layout you see right here inside Adobe. So again, it's kind of interesting that now you can record it live and then do some cut and splicing, and it does speed up the editing process to have a lot of this creative stuff already done. And so pretty exciting to know that you can do that. So again, so not only am I adding in things like my name flying in right here, these still images, I'm also editing audio on the fly as well. So let me just take you through that. It's part of the reason why I wanted to open this. So this is kind of the audio page. So I got video on the right. I still have my timelines on the bottom, my sequence. But right here I have audio, and you can scroll up and down through here and see the audio settings. And it's really hot right now because I raised this to get a good signal to go to the video tonight through the ATEM. And this is just letting me know I had some overages, and you can turn those on and off. And then this is where I can add in effects. So if you look up here, and let me see if I can increase this part of the window for you. So I have a Parametric EQ up here, and I use this setting inside Adobe Premiere, I tune it down quite a bit, but that's got a high pass filter on the left, gets rid of any low frequencies. So if a truck went by in the middle of my recording, I can lose it there. And you can see I kind of have it dropping at 40 hertz. I could bring this over and drop it at 60, which would probably be more traditional, or even 100 hertz. But I have some low frequencies in my intro that I like to leave in there. And so I like to keep it right over here at about 40, 45. And then a little drop here at an area in my voice that isn't necessary. And then a little tiny boost right here. And then a little bit of a high boost that just kind of gives it some air. And I use this setting. And then below that, I have a de-esser. And if you don't know what a de-esser is, that gets rid of the sibilants, the S's, and things like that. You can also make some choices inside the control software. You do have some audio features in there, like a compressor. So you can look at that inside the control software, but I want to focus on Adobe Premiere. So a lot of the Audition features have slowly come into Adobe Premiere. So I could do a lot of my editing right in Adobe Premiere in the audio section. I can see the audio levels right here, so I can see Adobe the different Premiere channel levels. But I still like to stay in the editing screen, and I'll just click this, turn this off. And a lot of times I just want to go into Adobe Audition, and this is what I really wanted to share tonight. And then we're going to kind of move on and not have you watch me edit this video tonight. But if I click on the audio channel and right click, I can go up here and I can say edit clip in Adobe Audition. So I've just told it to open Adobe Audition. So it's opening it up, and it's attached to Adobe Premiere, so I can do the editing here. And I can look at this is the WAV file, and I can, because I've done so many years of music editing, right? From drum tracks to guitar tracks to vocal tracks, I kind of know what I'm looking for. And so if I see any really hot spots in here, I can go up here to effects. I can go down here to amplitude, and I could drop in a hard limiter. And this is the hard limiter. And I can set it to, if I see just some high spots up here, like this one right here, I can look over and see that. And if I wanted to enlarge this, I could. I'm not going to, but I can go down here to these arrows and widen this, and I can make it larger. But if I see where it's peaking, then I can just set this hard limiter and run it, and it'll shave off these top edges. And hard limiters used in editing is for that reason alone. Why would I want to compress this whole track before I get rid of these peaks, right? And so you could have a analog limiter on your microphone channel. And I do have a limiter inside my Rodecaster Pro, but occasionally if I bump the mic or I get too close to the mic, you're still going to see some of those, even though they don't peak. They're still hot, and I can just shave those off because it's really unnecessary volume in those spots. And I'll do that right here in Adobe Audition. And a lot of times I like to just go right in here at the very beginning and kind of make some adjustments to that track, put my headphones on so I can hear it a little bit better without any of the room noise. And then I can also listen in my JBL speakers to get a better idea of what people are going to hear it, what it's going to hear like, or what it's going to sound like if you're in a room with surround sound speakers, or you're in your studio and you've got your speakers on as you're watching. And so I can also listen to it, what it sounds like on my computer speakers, to get an idea of what it's going to sound like if someone's playing it on their computer. And I think that way, because of editing and mastering tracks in the recording studio years ago, and those things were things that we would do. We would listen to it in a number of different locations, including I would take a CD burn out to my car. So again, audio. So let's say I make a change. So let's just make a little change here right in front of you so you can see how this works. I'm going to open this up, and let's just say I think this area right here is too quiet. I leaned over and I'm not talking directly to the microphone, and I just want to boost the volume a little bit. So I'm going to go right from here to here. Let's go right here. And once you get used to seeing this, you kind of know what's happening, and you can play it back in your headphones. And so I can go up here to this little wheel, and I could bring that volume up just a touch, right? I brought it up about a half a dB, and then I'm done, right? I don't want to make any more changes. I'm not going to add any effects here. I might do that later, but I just want to make those corrections and then hit save and exit. And it's actually going to make those changes right now, and they're done. So what I did in Adobe Audition just happened inside my Adobe Premiere software. So I can go back and forth, and that's one of the things I love about this. I can bring in After Effects graphics if I wanted to, and just bring those in. And so I love how Adobe, and it's not a sponsored video, I love how things integrate. And this is kind of a look at me editing in Lesson 6 inside Adobe Premiere. Again, it's just one of the many softwares out there. You don't have to use Adobe. You could use lots of other software out there, and there's even less expensive packages that you can do some good video editing. And I even do some editing on my phone a lot. And there's some apps that come with the Adobe suite as well that I use quite a bit when I'm on the road and I just want to do some quick little segments. Like if I'm at a venue like I was a few weeks back live, I did all of those on my iPhone, and some of those I pre-edited before they ever came into the studio right here on my phone. So again, I wanted to show you kind of a behind the scenes look at editing in Adobe Premiere. You got to pull everything together in a bin. Then you've got to create this sequence and start building it. You might just have something on a disk that you need to download and then drop it into Adobe. And you can do that as well. So I could bring any resource in here, and I'll show you that last bit right here under this kind of building section. And you also can go up here under Assemble on the top. I use it very rarely. I'm used to working in the other screen, but this is kind of a bigger view that you can use and bring in all your resources. I like to just stay in the editing window, and that's opening back up slowly. So get a drink. So now I'm back in that edit window. So I can bring anything in just by going to media, and I can go to all of my hard drives. So I could go to any of those. I could even get to my discs if I wanted to get to those discs, but I like to bring in everything from the cameras, from the disc onto my hard drive. And again, I add it on SSD drives so that I can just keep all the stuff on there, and I bring a backup into a regular spinning hard drive. So I have that footage down the road if something happens with my SSD drive. So once I have all the resources dropped in, I can also just open up Explorer, which I love to do, and I could drag and drop. So let's say I wanted something right out of this folder. I want this still image. I can go back here to lesson 6, the bin, and I could just bring in, open this up again, I could just bring in one of these stills and drop it right in here and then close Explorer. So again, interesting tool. I love the idea of editing, and it can be tedious at time, obviously. And I'm sure you've had those moments if you've done editing that you may just go, enough is enough. But I've done lots and lots of hours of editing, and I love Adobe Premiere. I love that with the package, I get all the updates, and I've seen some great increase in quality and performance. And again, I'm editing Adobe Premiere in my Asus ZenBook Pro Duo. It's an i9 processor. It's got a very fast video card, and it does pretty well. I don't do a lot of 4K. I do most of my editing in 1080p, and then I upscale it to put it on YouTube channel. So, man, I hope that this has been interesting to be behind the scenes. I want to see if there's any questions. It looks like I've got Akil, I think Pulko. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Hello from Germany. So is there any questions tonight that you guys have about the HyperDeck? Have you watched the series? I know Freddie has commented already. Has anybody else been watching the HyperDeck series? Do you have any questions about mix effects tonight? I'd love to take a little bit of time here tonight before we get off and answer your questions about the series or about the HyperDeck, even about the glitch tonight. So let me just go through here, see if I have any questions I have missed. Okay, I don't see any questions. If you have any questions, pop them in here before I get off the air. I just want to tell you that I've enjoyed doing this series. Here's what's coming up. I'm actually going to finish the series, right? The HyperDeck series, and get that 7th video done. We're still going to be live on Tuesdays. I have some ideas coming up of what I'd like to do live after we do that video next Tuesday and use it as a bonus in the series. I hope this tool helps you. If there's something specific in my studio that you would like me to highlight, that would be fine. I would love to do some videos on some of those items. And if that helps you become a better streamer or learn about what you may want to add to your studio, your streaming setup, that's great. These are not exclusive tools. But a lot of these you'll see other streamers using, including the HyperDeck. And the HyperDeck is getting more and more popular. It seems to be out of stock now all the time. So any questions, guys? So again, lesson 5 of the HyperDeck series is going to be available tomorrow afternoon. And then lesson 6, 2 days after that, the one you just saw me editing. I will finish probably editing that tonight after live. And I have another project for my wife's business that I need to get done, and which has been sitting on the back burner because of the HyperDeck mini series. And again, I hope it becomes a tool for people. I'd like to get Adam Tao again on the show here in a few weeks and kind of talk about some of the changes that have happened in Mix Effects, some of the feedback that he's getting. And now that you can actually use it with the companion app. So those are things that we want to talk about here in the studio as well. And then I have been playing around with the idea of getting the second HyperDeck. Now, why would I want to do that? Well, if you watch the series, I talk about ways that people use the HyperDeck, and you don't find a lot of videos on this, but in a live event, which I plan on doing lots of live events as things continue to open up in my region. Part of the reason why I've been practicing here in the studio and doing some of my wife's podcasts live, and actually her season finale will be live right here from the studio. And the reason I'm doing these lives is because it gives me the ability to think through all the processes when you're doing a live event for someone. And a HyperDeck could be a great tool. A second one could be set up just to record speakers or a part of an event. And so let's say that an event is going to go off and on for a couple hours, but there's one primary event. You know, everybody, including that speaker, is going to want a copy of that portion of it, or maybe just the speaker. Part of the agreement or the contract or the situation you're in is that they would like to have the footage And so if that's how you negotiate, that you give them the footage after a live streaming event is what I'm talking about, where you're doing all the live production and putting it out on the airways, then that second HyperDeck could be recording the main camera, and the main camera, you could record 4K on the HyperDeck. And so rather than using your HyperDeck for recording, you're going to be using it for the graphics and maybe an intro or a video that's going to play in the venue. Then the next HyperDeck could be specifically for recording. So you could come out of HyperDeck 1 HDMI out into HyperDeck 2, or if you wanted to record directly from the camera, the main camera, without any graphics, then you could come right directly out of the camera, split that, and then go into HyperDeck number 2 through the SDI input and record up to 30 frames per second, 4K 422, which I have some samples of what that looks like here on the channel if you'd like to see that. So again, I'm thinking about another HyperDeck because of live scenarios and a portable rig. And so I may end up with 2 or 3 HyperDecks, because one, staying in here in the studio all the time, and 2, going out in a mobile kit. And I have a rack that was in this studio when I originally changed it from a man cave into a live production studio. And so that rack is in my garage, and I've hung on to it because it's the perfect situation to roll it up, carry it into my SUV. It's got nice wheels on it, and I could roll that right into a venue. And so there's lots of cool things happening right now out there, from trays that are being designed for the extreme ISO and the extreme. So you can have a 1U rack and pull it out. And so it's just, I'm watching those things happen right now. I saw a video today of a monitor that pulls out and folds up, and that would be a great thing to have in the rack. And so again, you could be using that in your studio and then unhook it and take it out live. I want to leave everything hooked up in my studio, except for maybe the cameras may come down and go with me, because that's a very expensive investment to take, to leave cameras here and then have another set of cameras to take with me, especially with the lenses. So again, that's all I have, guys. I do want to answer any questions. Here's Freddie. You said you want a second HyperDeck. For what do you include in your setup? Well, if I took out an exterior live streaming rig, right now my plan was to take my ATEM Mini Pro and take it out there with me. But the more I think about it, the more I like the Extreme and the features in the Extreme. And again, man, you can do so much with a Mini, right? You could do so much with a Mini Pro and so much with the Mini Pro ISO. But obviously, now that I've had the Extreme ISO in my studio, there's things that I just love to have. I love to have Super Source, and I know what I could do with that in a live event. I also love the 2 HDMI outs. That gives me the ability to do some things with monitors and sending certain things to certain monitors. So I love those features. I love the macros on the front, so I could have some macros pre-programmed and just be able to push the buttons on the front of the ATEM. So my portable rig is probably going to end up being at least one HyperDeck. It's going to be at least my ATEM Mini Pro. It's going to be my 3 cameras, obviously, that I have here in the studio. And I possibly may add like a Sony A6400, which is what I've been recommending to a lot of streamers out there. And I love the EOS R. So if I could find a deal on EOS R, I would probably get that. I'm very familiar with that, but I also have recommended the Sony A6400s, and those have come down in price. And it's a great camera, great autofocus. And actually, some would say the autofocus is better than the Canon 5D Mark IV I'm looking at right now. And equal to the EOS R. So again, I need to have that portable kit, portable power, and obviously a modem, because I would be streaming live. So those are the things I'm looking at. And as I get closer to putting that kit together, Freddie, I will break it down and talk about that here on live. So cool. I don't think I missed any questions. So thank you guys so much for being live with me tonight. There's some cool things coming up on the channel, as well as the end of the HyperDeck mini series. There's other projects that I have in the works that we'll talk more about in the future. We've already talked about having some battery backup here in the studio. And once I get that set up, I will give you a tour. So thank you so much for tuning in the live. Again, we'll be live again next Tuesday at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and right here on the channel, and more things to cover. And if there's a link or something that you didn't see tonight in the notes, let me know in the comments, and I will try to get those links for you to those different items. And I'll get a link to this. It's not on there yet, so that you guys can find that. And so again, I'm Keith. This is Life Journey Production Studios. This is another Tuesday. I hope that you enjoyed the behind the scenes of Adobe Premiere, and maybe one time we'll do a whole video on editing a small little 3-minute video. If I could try to pull that off in an hour, we might do that in the near future. So again, lesson coming up. I'll be in After Effects, and you've seen me in Adobe Premiere. You saw Adobe Audition tonight. Let me just remind you that I recommend Lightroom, and that's what I bring photos and stills in to get them looking right. I recommend Adobe Premiere. I recommend Adobe Premiere with Adobe Audition. After Effects for doing motion graphics and all of the other really cool backgrounds and things that you can do as well. I do a lot of my work for stills in Adobe Illustrator. And so obviously Photoshop is great for some touch-ups as well. Photoshop is probably my least used item, but because I can do a lot of what I can do in Photoshop in Lightroom and then also in Adobe Illustrator. And they are kind of crossing each other over time, just like Adobe Premiere has great audio features, as well as Adobe Audition has amazing audio features. So, well, that's it for tonight. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you guys again next Tuesday. And if there's any questions I see after we're done live, I will try to answer those in the comments. So have a great night. I'm going to try a macro on Mix Effects one more time and roll my outro. It simply says on here, good night. Let's see if it works.